What's going on, everybody? We are a family of nerds. Welcome back to our podcast, a podcast about nothing. My name is McFly. To my right is Greg Lopez. What's going on, Greg?
What's up?
To my left is InHerScope. What's going on, Scope?
I
Today we're going to be talking about
So cute.
first episode of WinterFalcon. Kind of go into details of the two main characters, Falcon and Bucky, where they're at, where we see them going, and then kind of our overall thoughts on the first episode in general. So let's start with
Falcon.
pretty obvious that he's trying to live a normal life. It starts out with him kind of trying to help his sister out, get the business back up and running. He's kind of trying to distance himself from the Avengers. At least that's what I'm gathering. And just trying to be a normal person, be a family guy. I don't have a problem with that, really. I think it depends where it goes from there on how I'll feel about it. But Scope, what's your feeling on him trying to live a normal life?
feel like they're just trying to show us a more in depth of his character and showing us more of his background and stuff with his family and all that stuff. But I also like it because it gives me like a Hawkeye feel too, like the family vibes and shit, because all the kids are there and stuff. I don't know.
Well, that's cool, man. Actually, like he's one of the Avengers that's like most. I think you said this before, Jeremy, but he's like an everyman. Like he doesn't have like superpowers. He doesn't have a crazy traumatic backstory that we know of, at least. So it's he's not like an orphan. He has like family. They're still alive. He wasn't frozen for 90 years. He's not a billionaire. Like
Right.
he has like normal everyday stuff to like go back to. I did think it was kind of weird that he has really close ties with his family. We weren't really given any like indication about this from anything that I saw in the movies. Like I didn't know he had like family in New Orleans. That kind of just surprised me. Like all of a sudden he has like this association with like a boat and shrimping or whatever. And I was like,
Shrimp.
or maybe I'm thinking of Bubba Gump over here,
Yeah.
but
If he survived the war.
maybe there was no shrimp reference, but I was just surprised. Like I was like, oh, okay. I guess he has a family. He doesn't just run on the weekends in DC for his whole life.
Don't say it. You say it. Left. Come on!
I think that's kind of what they're using these first couple episodes for, is to give a little bit more backstory on Falcon, especially. So yeah, I was no idea his family owned a boat or sold shrimp or whatever. So I'm with you on that one for sure. But that's good. I mean, like I said, we kind of need a backstory. We need to get closer to these characters to feel for these characters. So I'd expect that from the show.
It makes him more relatable.
100%. That goes along with what Greg was saying that I said. That he's kind of an everyman. That makes him super relatable, right?
Yeah.
I think Falcon, because of that, is making him more of a popular Avenger at this point, because I can be Falcon minus the pigment of my skin.
My man.
I'm saying is Falcon better watch out TMZ don't get a hold of that fucking video of Ant-Man whooping his ass. It's gonna be bad, bro. It's gonna be bad. TMZ gonna put him on blast.
I'm sure they're gonna mention that. They're gonna make a joke out of it for sure. I'm hoping, at least.
They brought it up in Civil War. I remember that.
That's true.
Yeah.
They did. They did.
He was like, nothing happened, man. Move on. Let's get out of here. We got to help Cap. More important things. Don't look at me.
Didn't he also like get beat by Spider-Man too? He's getting like jumped by everybody.
Fuck, dude, he's like a
And
modern day
strong,
Rocky,
man.
bro. Just getting his ass beat.
Yeah, dude. But Rocky comes back and beats them back, so it's fine. Obviously, this show, I think the main dynamic is going to be Falcon dealing with either being pressured or having to become the next Captain America, right? Already, he's getting pushed deeper into what I'm calling the rabbit hole of becoming the new Cap. The episode ended with the crowning of the nuker, right? And I think they didn't say anything, but just by the look on his face, I feel like he is almost regretting not having decided to take up the mantle.
He looked like he was kind of regretting the situation as it unfolded. I mean, I thought it was pretty messed up that the guy, as he is crowning the new Cap, pretty much steals his speech, the one that Sam said when he was giving the shield back. He like takes like word for word, like takes a bunch of it and is like, we need new heroes. Here, this guy. So I feel like that was like a huge like slap to the face, like for Sam, because that was a pretty like, I think, heavy moment for him, and it was probably really difficult for him to pass up on kind of taking this promotion or this new position coming from Cap, you know? Like he's like, yeah, you're the guy. Take the shield. Go do the thing. And he's like, no, it's not right. And they hand it to just some random guy. So I think they pretty much set it up. It's like on a collision course now. I am curious about the fake guy. I have like a thought on who it might be, but I'm not sure. I think in WandaVision, I had some thoughts on people being more than just humans, and they ended up just being humans. So we'll see.
I think that it's almost noble. Sam doesn't want to be Cap. You know, he almost feels like he's not strong enough or he's not the right person for it. And I think that is kind of ironic. I think that thought makes him kind of the best person to be it. He understands how important that symbol is. He understands how important Captain America is, not only to the people, but to the Avengers and just the symbol that he is. He knows how important it is, and he doesn't feel like he fits that bill. I think because of that thought, because he believes that he is the one that fits the bill. So it's kind of ironic the way that works out.
I feel like he's feeling very pressured to be Cap, and especially now, like they just give it to they give it to the guy who's going to be Silver Surfer, probably.
Silver Surfer is always,
Dude,
he's always going to show up.
there needs to be an over-under counter on here of how many times you mention Silver Surfer every episode. If it's over 5, we get a pizza party.
Over 5? I'm fucking dead.
Torres.
Following along with the pressure to become Cap, I want to real quick talk about Torres, because if Sam becomes Cap, there's going to have to be somebody stepping up to become Falcon, right? I mean, I think he's important enough to the Avengers that there would need to be a replacement. Pretty obvious that Torres in the comics was Falcon for a over amount of time. In fact, I think right now there's an issue running with him, and he's in the show. So obviously, he's at the very least going to be Sam's kind of sidekick, the whole Falcon thing. So if Sam does become Cap, whether it's during the show, at the end of the show, I think it's safe to say that Torres will be Falcon.
That one seems like the most straightforward
Yeah,
of any guesses we can make, just because it's like the name matches and everything.
And
Yeah,
I
think
wouldn't have
that's
even known
good.
that if you didn't mention it when we were watching it. You're like, oh
Yeah,
crap,
I didn't
Torres.
know
I
that
was like,
either.
I didn't know. I had no idea. So
The origin storyline things. I mean, in the comic, the villains in the story were like being people that were like crossing the border in Mexico. They were just like grabbing people and then like experimenting on them. And this kid gets caught up in all that. And they just kind of like are turning them into like human animal creations. And Torres gets the vampire hawk blood. And so he like legit turns into like a bird person. Yeah, so he like has wings and whatnot. It's kind of nuts.
so like
Kinda
legit Falcon as opposed to
Yeah.
wearing a suit. Spider-Man version of a Falcon, essentially.
Yeah. The one where he like produces his own web from his own
Mhm.
body. Like that kind of style.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to go down that way. I mean, they've got the suit. Probably easier for them to just hand off a suit and be like, learn how to fly with this thing. I don't know that that's the only storyline with Torres becoming the Falcon, but that was just the one that I had seen. I thought it was kind of intense, man. I'm like, so he's like a vampire bird person. It's kind of
Kind of
rad.
nuts. It's kind of nuts.
Yeah. What can you do? Will you die in the sunlight? I don't know. Curious.
Character development between Bucky and Falcon.
I want to bring up something real quick. I'm pretty positive when it comes to Marvel. Because we're doing this podcast, I've become a little bit more critical. And I'm going to do this for both Falcon and Bucky. We don't have a lot of context in the first episode. So like I said before, it's more so character enlightenment for the audience of who Bucky is and who Sam is, because we don't really have a lot of background story. My opinion is that this show so far is a tale of two shows. Bucky's story, while a little bit more straightforward than Falcon's, is being really well done. I think Sam's is very, very rushed, the way they're doing it. I'm a big fan of character development, and I think the way they're going about his character development doesn't really... Something's off with the flow or something, I don't know, but I don't know if it was the way some of the scenes were directed or what, but it's throwing me off to the point where it's not almost believable in some of the scenes to me. The way his character reacts and the way the decisions he makes doesn't make sense. One of them being him going to the bank that you mentioned, Scope, about assuming he would get a loan because he's an Avenger. Like, I don't know. That was kind of weird to me. I think it's kind of showing that he's not immune to that stuff just because he's an Avenger, but I think they could have gone about that a different way.
The other thing, I don't think he assumed because he was an Avenger. Like, I think he was hoping that would help him, but he said he knew that he would qualify for a loan. The rules had changed. I think for me, it's the main thing about it that kind of throws it all off is that, like, I wouldn't have expected him to have such like a close knit family that he like never brought up at all. Like I just wish they would have mentioned it like one time. Like maybe I missed it in the movies. If he had ever been like, I have family back home, I need to like go check in on them. The way that he kind of like rolled with Cap so quickly, almost like he had nothing else in his life. But now we're finding out that he has plenty to live for. That's the biggest thing for me about that. Why I'd agree with what you're saying. I think the way that they're using the two characters is kind of like showing like Falcon has like a lot going on in his life and Bucky has like nothing going on in his life. So, I mean, not nothing, but like it just by comparison, like he doesn't have as many people leaning on him or people that he could like really help. He just kind of has his list. So
I think that's a good point too, is that we had like the transition from the movies to the show for Bucky is pretty straightforward. I mean, you would expect him to be dealing with the guilt and all that stuff. But for Falcon, it's almost a completely brand new thing that we're learning about him that maybe that's what it was that threw me off. I just think because of that, they have two different pacings for the characters in the same show, and I think that's why it's like the tale of two shows. I almost feel like if they did like one episode of just Falcon and one episode of Bucky. This is just my personal opinion. I mean, it could be different for you guys. That's kind of my whole thing on that.
Fake Captain America.
Let's talk about the fake Cap. Scope, you'll obviously have more input on this, but don't give anything away. We found out at the end of the first episode that they essentially assigned, voluntold a new Captain America, basically behind Sam's back. That was kind of the big reveal at the end.
Douchebag.
There's a lot of impending questions here leading into the second episode. We don't know who this person is. Greg, you said you had an idea, depending if it's following the comics or not, who it could be. You know, what questions I have are, you know, is this person a regular, normal human being? Is it powered person? We don't know. This imposter is.
Well, from a couple things, like I think there's this guy, John Walker, or he's also like I think he's like called the Patriot or a U.S. agent in the comics and stuff, and that he's involved in Captain America and Falcon's story and such. And so this kind of makes sense that he might be this kind of like imposter person. Right. And so if it's that guy, then from what I know, he'd have like superhuman strength, and I forget his deal exactly, but I think he kind of had some like beef with Captain America. Like he didn't like him. He wanted to be a better version of him or something. So he would follow like government orders a lot more. He wouldn't really be an ally. But I think that changes from time to time. I think if it's that character, he's kind of like he's like a dude with anger issues. Right. And so he wants to do the right thing sometimes, and sometimes he's kind of just out of it.
The douchebag.
So he's just kind of a wild card. Given the chance to take over the mantle, he would have done it, from what I know. So that's kind of what I think with that guy. This could also be Marvel kind of tricking you, like the bait and switch thing, like you guys were saying before. Yeah. It could be just some normal, regular guy that's like literally like Iron Man 3, the Mantis style, like status. Like I'm an actor. I have no powers.
You think he's gonna be Silver Surfer? I do too.
God damn it! The thing with the Mantis is that was like a huge character in the comics.
Oh, that they just kind of like joked around with.
Yeah, ultimately it's like if they took Thanos and they like showed Thanos a bunch, and then they're like, oh no, this is just some little 6-year-olds with VR, like essentially is what I would equate it to, right? There was a lot of people mad at that, but I don't think it's gonna be like that. I'm just curious, and like is he gonna end up being a full-on enemy to Sam? Is he gonna end up helping him? That's kind of my biggest question. You know, everybody can start off one way and end up another way. Winter Soldier's the biggest.
Bucky right there,
yeah.
Bucky's always been a fucking swell guy, though, man. He's always been a cute little man, dude. Like, he's just been this lovable guy, man.
He's always been swell.
You remember when he stopped him from whooping Captain America's ass, dude? Like, he was just so loving, dude. He gave him the Care Bear stare, bro, and they just ran off.
Bucky Barnes.
kind of not a lot going on here compared to Falcon, right? It's kind of a continuation, like I said, of the movies. He is obviously dealing with the guilt from being Winter Soldier. He's still having flashbacks. I think the most important thing that I saw, he's going to therapy, which I thought was
good.
kind of the most comedic part of the whole show, ironically, was him in the therapy sessions and not taking it seriously.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing we
Like
found
Mr.
from that
Mr.
is,
Smith.
yeah, the thing we found from that is he has a list of essentially people he's wronged, right? And that I don't necessarily want to say he wants to make amends with, because there's a couple people on that list who are not good people, so I don't really necessarily know he wants to make amends. I think it's more so he wants to get past what happened with those people. So whether that means make amends, whether that means having a conversation, but he has a list.
I think it's really good to see him in therapy. He needs it. He's been mind controlled. The motherfucker needs some type of therapy. So I'm glad to see this motherfucker's getting help, man. He needs something, bro. If it's not Jesus, it needs to be fucking Mary, bro, and she needs to be giving him that good old talk.
Yeah.
So plus his comedy, man, it just shows more of his like character, man, and how unique he is in a way, and how mature he is too, to deal with so much and go through so much, and just to be this like strong character still, you know.
100%, yeah. And I think him not taking it seriously is, and being like funny about it, is him not really wanting to deal with it. It's kind of, again, ironic, right?
Yeah, I think it's kind of interesting that you point out like the lists. I noticed that it seemed like there was a list where it was like people that he probably wants to like go kill, and then people. There seems like there's another list where it's like people that he feels like extremely guilty
People that
for.
he has killed.
Where it's it's like there's kind of like a list of villains almost, and then seemed like the other list that we saw later is probably the one that where he is to like actually use those like therapy techniques that totally wasn't using in that one scene. So
All the 3 rules.
yeah, he broke all of them.
Yeah. I think the best way to describe it is like, well, technically he did the third rule. He just didn't follow the first 2, so it didn't matter. I think the best way to describe the list is like a list of unfinished business. That could mean a lot of different things, right? Instead of it just being like paying amends. So I think that's kind of how I would word it.
The list.
I'm gonna do it really quickly. Who was on the list? The names that popped out to me was Helmet Zemo, obviously, because we all know he's going to be the main villain in this, and what he did in Civil War. Him being on this list is why I say it's not about making amends, it's about unfinished business. He's the guy that mind controlled him, he's the guy that used him as a weapon against the Avengers. Another one is A. Rostov, which is short for Andre Rostov. He was, in the comics, he was Red Barbarian. It could also just be a reference to Andre Rostov, who was a completely different character, but not as important in the comics. These could just be random names that they chose to kind of pay homage to the comics too, and could have nothing to do with the storyline. But these are ones that kind of stuck out. P.W. Hauser was on there. I believe he's just a co-star in one of Sebastian Stan's movies that he wanted to pay homage to, so they put his name in the show. So those are kind of the most important ones. But everybody on the list: A. Rostov, P.W. Hauser, F. Dr. I. Salazar, Zero. This is again in the comics, and Soviet scientist. T. Osmond, he was in the Marvel Universe during the Cold War. He created a sentient robot. I think Nakashima was the sentient kid that he killed. He's talking to the old man at the. So keep that in mind.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's him. And then C. Holbein. So those are all the names. And I personally don't know all of those names. I know in the space race. I mentioned the ones that I do know.
Oh yeah, because one of the ones
he
that
wasn't
was
backed
on there
by
I thought was kind of tight was
government
Steve
superiors,
Whitaker, which it was like the guy that made
secretly funded resources from the regime.
But he also he did something
to the moon, where he
later
became a problem for Tony Stark.
John Walker, the US agent.
So maybe
I feel like
he could be somebody who influenced and end up being in like Secret Wars, possibly.
Trying to like guess the future. Who knows if
the Armor Wars, whatever that
was. Like another reason just to think maybe.
Yeah, like I said, I think most of these are just names that they need to fill out, and then like, let's be clever about some of them. I don't necessarily think most of them are going to be important, but it is Marvel. So if we learn anything from WandaVision, it's think simpler. That's what I'm going to just go with, that these are not too many of them are important. Those are all the names that were on there, kind of a breakdown of that. We are a family of nerds. This was our podcast about nothing on WinterFalcon episode 1. My name is McFly. To my right is Greg.
What's up?
And to my left is InHerScope.
Adios, turd nuggets.
Bye! Falcon Wings.